Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to discuss about the aggregate functions in Pandas. In Pandas, aggregate functions allows you to compute summary statistics on your data such as sum, mean, min, max, standard deviation, count and so on. Pandas provide these aggregate functions and they can be applied either on entire columns or on rows in a data frame. I have already imported the necessary Python packages and I've created a dummy data frame for this exercise. Apart from that, I have also created a new variable called sales where I have multiplied quantity by price, and you can see this is a new variable sales apart from product, price and quantity. Now let's see the functionalities of aggregate function in Pandas and see how we can calculate summary statistics on a dataset. Now let's do an example where we would like to calculate the total quantity sold, as well as we want to calculate the average sales price, and we also want to figure it out what is the min and max selling price of our products. It's very simple. Let's create a new variable called total quantity and we will call a data frame df. Let's call the variable quantity and then dot, and we will call our method sum, and let's run this. Now let's see the output. Print total underscore quantity. So total number of the products sold are 430. So in this way, one can calculate the total quantity sold. Now let's say we want to calculate the average sales price. Average underscore sales underscore price. What we are going to do, we are going to call a data frame df. Let's call our column sales and then mean. Let's run the code. Let's see what is our average sales price. $65. Now let's do one more example where we will try to figure it out what is the minimum selling price of our product as well as the maximum selling price of our product. Print, we will use f string min sales price. Let's call our data frame df. We'll call our variable price min and max sales price, or it will be better if I call it as selling price. df price dot max. Let's run the code, and you can see the minimum selling price of our product is 50 cents, whereas the maximum selling price is $1.60. When working with aggregate functions in Pandas, you will often come across the axis parameter. This parameter controls whether the aggregation is applied horizontally or vertically. By default, axis is equal to 0. It applies the functions column wise, whereas axis is equal to 1. This means the function will operate on each row and return a result for each row. Let's see the functionalities of axis parameter and see what type of the action it will take and what output we will get if we are going to change the axis parameter from 0 to 1. Let's create a new data frame called df underscore call and let's call our data frame df. Let me drop the string variable called product because aggregate function doesn't make sense on a string function. Axis is equal to 1, and let's use the aggregate function sum, and by default it is axis is equal to 0, but I'm explicitly mentioning it here that axis is equal to 0. and let's see what is going to be our outcome. Let's see the outcome, df underscore call, and as you can see, the sum is calculated for each column, resulting a single result per column. So here the total price is 7.8, total quantity sold is 430, and total sales value is $455. When you use x is equal to 1, the function is applied row wise. For example, let's calculate the sum of price and quantity for each row. I know it is not going to make sense, but our objective is to see the role of axis parameter in aggregate function. It's a dummy data set, it is not going to make sense, but let's see how these axis parameter works and how they control the aggregate functions. df underscore row, and here I'll call my data frame df and call column price and quantity, and using some aggregate function, and this time I'm changing the behavior. Default behavior is x is equal to 0, and I'm changing it from 0 to 1. Let's run the code. Let's just print df underscore row, and you can see here the sum of price and quantity values for each row is computed. One can also apply aggregate functions on multiple columns at once. Let's say one wants to calculate the average selling price as well as the average quantity sold across the entire data frame. Let's see how we can do that. Total or average underscore price underscore quantity. Let's call our data frame df price and quantity dot mean. Let's run the code. Let's see the output. Print average score price quantity, and you can see here the average dollar price is 1.11, whereas average quantity sold is 61.43. You can also apply multiple aggregate function to Pandas data frame. For example, let's apply sum, mean and standard deviation to both price and quantity columns in our data frame df. df underscore agg equal to df. Let's call our columns price and quantity. And here we are going to use aggregate function. So if you want to apply multiple aggregate function, there you have to specifically mention agg, and I'm calling a dictionary for price, and let's say I would like to apply multiple aggregate functions such as sum, mean and standard deviation. For another variable which is quantity, let's say I would like to see sum, min and max value. Let's run the code and let's see the output. Print df underscore agg, and you can see here we have successfully derived the sum value for price, mean value as well as the standard deviation, whereas for quantity we have calculated how many number of the products sold, 430, what is the minimum quantity sold, 30, and the maximum quantity sold is 100. Sometimes we want to apply a custom aggregate function. For example, let's say we want to calculate the range, i.e. the difference between the max and the min value of a particular numerical column. Let's see how we can do that. Let's create a custom function def range underscore function x return x dot max minus x dot min and let me calculate a new variable called price range. Let me call the variable, let's say price. And if you want to apply a custom aggregate function, you have to explicitly call egg method, and then you have to pass the custom function which we have created above. Let's run the code. Let's print the output price underscore range, and you can see the difference between the max selling price and the min selling price is 1.1. In this tutorial, we have explored various facets of aggregate functions in Pandas. Using these aggregate functions, you can quickly summarize your data and make informed decisions. That's it for today, and let me know if you have any questions. Please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Thank you so much. Have a great day.